Make no mistake, the rice terracing around Banari and surrounding areas is vast. Terracing was introduced by the Chinese some 2,000 years ago, but when you look at the amount that has been done, you wonder how they ever finished. Particularly when you realise that not a single machine was used, and the whole lot were built by hand. Again filming for the Philippine Department of Tourism, this was our first stop on our tour of North Luzon. The weather was not good, certainly not good enough for shooting video to be used in promotional films. We travelled all over the area trying to get good footage of the scenery. We even extended our stay by a few days in the hope that better weather would come along. Fortunately, on our last full day of filming, the clouds cleared for a while and we got some good shots of the main Banari Valley. With better weather around, which would hopefully last into the afternoon, we had a dilemma. Where do we go to film? The area is too big and the roads generally too poor to be able to visit multiple places in an afternoon. In the end, the choice was quite easy. We'd returned to the very picturesque and tiny village of Banari. We had been here a few days before, but had not walked down to the village because of the rain, and I'm so glad we had this opportunity to go and experience the tranquility of the place. Don't look at me, she insisted on carrying it. And teeth. I think Siobhan has got something wrong with her neck, but probably nowhere near as big a problem as this old lady being bent over double planting rice all day long. You see many ladies like this that can no longer stand up straight. It's the morning of our departure and rather typically the weather is fantastic. I can't resist one more trip to the top of the valley to do a bit of time lapse. With the camera rolling, it's time for a nice cup of tea and to do what I've been putting off for ages. Postcards. I hate writing postcards, I never know what to say and my handwriting is rubbish. What's wrong with good old-fashioned Facebook to let your mum know what you've been up to? Postcards done and dusted, and one last chance to admire the view. This is a spectacular place that Filipinos should be proud of having as part of their heritage. We will definitely return to the region next year, but not to Banari. But that, as they say, is another story. I've been to Puerto Princesa many times to board boats on trips to Tubataha, but never found time to go and have a look at the underground river. But today was the day when we were going to go and have a look. After a 20-minute boat ride from the main port area, we arrive at the underground river. A short walk takes us to where we board our boat. Fortunately, today is not so busy, so while we wait our turn, we get kitted up in the latest of fashions of safety wear. Well, you've got to look good in these situations, haven't you? So finally we're in our boat, Yvette with the blue hat and Baby and Anna with the white ones, and Siobhan is in front of me. As soon as we enter darkness, our guide launches into his pre-programmed spiel, likening every single rock formation with a likeness to a vegetable or a body part. I'm not listening because I've got other things on my mind. My video lights are about as much use as a chocolate teapot. I knew it would be tricky filming in here, but I hadn't appreciated how difficult it was going to be to coordinate my lovely lighting ladies, Siobhan, Baby and Anna, and to keep the camera steady, and to avoid the water dripping from the ceiling, and to coordinate the boat guy, who had to paddle and keep the boat steady in the current. Yeah, it was tricky. Thanks to Yvette and Anna for arranging the permits, we were having a special trip. Normally you would enter something like 2 kilometres before turning back, but today we were going to go in over 4 kilometres. The rock formations are incredible, and I find myself scratching my head trying to figure out how it was all created. And even though we are in a paddle boat, it still feels like we're racing through and don't really have time to take it all in. What I also found quite extraordinary was that despite being 4 kilometres away from light, there were birds as well as bats flying around. This is the fossilised remains of a dugong. Hopefully we'll be seeing some live ones at some stage too. Almost back at the beginning now, and my lighting ladies have done me proud. Thank you ladies, I couldn't have done it without you.
Say something like, welcome to Planet Action.
Welcome to Planet Action, the best adventure company and the most awesome places you're gonna visit. Whatever, I'm not good at for speeches. You should prepare, I should prepare myself better.
Okay, so we're at Planet Action. We're at the top of the Caravan Falls, and we've got to pedal up the way here to then start the ascent. It's gonna be fun.
So as you probably gather by now, we are with Planet Action doing a river climb above the higher Caravan Falls near Marbois. And the rather modest and humble gentleman at the beginning of this film is the one and only Jochen Haneke, who's the owner of Planet Action, Last Filling Station and Tipolo Resort. And if you thought that I can talk a load of old nonsense for hours, I am just a mere novice by comparison to Jochen, especially if you were to mention to him arm wrestling and mountain biking over a few beers at the Last Filling Station. Siobhan and I have wanted to do one of Planet Action's activities for ages, and finally in February we managed to blag a couple of places on the river climbing trip. We had heard from friends that it can be a full-on day, and not for the faint-hearted, which seeing both of us like a bit of adventure all sounded rather good fun, and Siobhan needs absolutely no encouragement to get stuck in. Handy little things, these GoPro cameras. Needless to say, I wasn't using my Sony EX1R camcorder for the other shots. All joking aside, although this does look quite full on, I have purposely filmed with the limitations of my cameras to make as much drama as possible. There is always a safer route to take, and Joachim and Mario are always there to guide you through safely. But if there's a tricky route to take, Siobhan will find it. She's a game girl, and I've seen this many times now. There's a link between the amount of adrenaline flowing through her veins is proportional to the amount of teeth on show. We're not far from the top of the river now, where lunch awaits us. It's taken us about 3 hours or so to get here, and it's been a brilliant day. A mixture of excitement, nature, banter, and damn good fun. Next year we'll definitely do more of Jochen's trips. Canyoning, I think, next. Back to Southern Leyte once again, but this time for a memorable moment above water. Well, strictly speaking, I suppose it's not above water, but there again, it's not a dive site, and we're not diving with the whale sharks, so we'll just keep it here. Does it really matter? We're off to the far side of Soga Bay to Sonok to pick up Pastor Ernesto and our spotters for the day. Sonok was the place I used my very first underwater video camera in 2005, and the very first thing I filmed was a 10-metre female whale shark called Scarfin. In those days we could purposely dive with the whale sharks, but today it's snorkelling only. Ernesto gives the snorkelers the briefing on what they can and cannot do when interacting with the sharks, and then with the spotters in tow, we head further south to San Ricardo, where the sharks have been more commonly seen. The spotters waste no time at all and find this 6-metre long shark almost immediately. It's always tricky putting a size to a shark. It's probably easier to classify them as big, really big, and absolutely huge. Because after all, even a small whale shark is big, if you see what I mean. Today is turning out to be one of those perfect days, with good weather, good visibility and some great interactions with the sharks. Plus also, I'm receiving first class service from the spotters by taking me in their boat to the next shark. I've known Erai here since 2006 when we first started to use spotters. He's without doubt the best. He has this incredible vision to be able to spot the shark when no one else can. He's also an incredible freediver. I've seen him swimming alongside a shark at 30 meters down. Back with Eri again, and the spotters are getting really quite excited. Apparently there's a big one just ahead of us. This one needs a category of its own. It's not just absolutely huge, it's positively ginormous. I predicted before coming to the Philippines that it would be the year of the whale shark, and it's turned out that way. We've seen them in 4 different places: Southern Leyte, Oslob, Malboal and Tubataha. But without doubt, Southern Leyte is our favourite place. There are no crowds, it's a beautiful environment, and the local people are respectful and considerate to these gentle giants. I've spent quite a lot of time in Puerto Galera, mainly doing courses with Asia divers and Tech Asia. And despite spending 3 months there doing my instructor course in 2005, I couldn't really say I knew the place underwater. I knew there were good dive sites and plenty of macro stuff to see, but I just didn't empathise in the way I do with other areas. That all changed this year. Our first dive on giant clams was a day dive. We were so excited afterwards, we knew we would have to make some night dives too. The place was hot, really hot. Siobhan and Marlon are exceptional spotters and were finding loads of flamboyant cuttlefish. Siobhan actually found one half the size of this one. Unfortunately, there's no video of it. Flamboyants are an incredible creature. Apparently, they are equally as poisonous as the deadly blue ring octopus, but it's the skin that carries the toxin. So just remember, anything with a pulse gets eaten in the Philippines, so if your calamari starts flashing, steer clear. Okay, it's time to be controversial. Seahorses are rubbish. There, I've said it. Yes, okay, so you are sweet looking things and everyone goes, "Ah," when they see you, but what do? Nothing, that's what. You just look away pretending to be shy and don't like the lights. Nonsense, you were just plain lazy and leave it to the ghost pipefish and the pygmy seahorses to put some interest in your family. Learn a lesson from this pygmy pipe horse. At least he's got the decency to get trampled on by a crab. Sort it out, seahorses. Now, frogfish, that's a different case entirely. These things of beauty actually do things like wave their little antenna around, feed on other fish which can be as big as themselves. They even yawn. Exciting stuff. With all the great things that we had seen, it was this little fella that stole the show. He's a not so hairy frogfish. There's a lot to be said for the diving around PG, with signature dives like Canyons, Alma Jane, Hole in the Wall, Sabang Rex, but we'll be returning in 2013 for the muck and the macro, and a few beers with our mates at the Point Bar. I've been lucky again this year to be invited back for a couple of trips on board the rather brilliant liveaboard boat Rags 2 with my good mates Brian and Ralph. This trip we have dived the wrecks in Coron and a day at Apa Reef, but today is the highlight of the week, a special dive to the MV Coral Island. It's a special dive because of the depth. The seabed is at 70 metres, but we'll limit ourselves to 65. Needless to say, we are using Trimix and I've less than 20 minutes to whiz around the ship to film her. If I'm honest, I do feel a little bit of pressure. This is my deepest filming dive I've ever done. Plus, I've got $110 worth of helium in my back gas, and we've only got one shot at diving and filming her. I have to get it right. The MV Coral Island was a general cargo vessel built in Japan in 1965. She measured 73 metres long, 11.43 tall, and had a beam of 5.21 metres. She was operated by the Coral Island Resort Development Corporation and often used for transporting medical supplies for a government agency. In July 1982, she was en route between Batangas to Manila when she suffered an explosion during engine testing. Sadly, 21 of the 95 people on board perished by the subsequent fire. All the survivors were soon picked up, but it took a further 3 days for her to sink on July 29. Now Ralph here is a good mate. We've done some completely brilliant dives together over the last few years, and if I'm honest, it's his advice and encouragement most of all that has helped me improve as a diver and develop my passion for technical and wreck diving. But, yes I know, there's always a but, he's a perfectionist, to the point at times it becomes painful. After each film I make that he features in, I receive email after email analysing the things he did wrong on camera. So, for the sake of saving you an email, Ralph, I've blocked out where you touched the wreck. You bad diver. Time is getting on now. We've been down for about 16 minutes at this stage. I'm quite happy with how the dive has gone, as I've managed to get around the whole boat. It would have been great to make a second dive to film the cargo holds and inside the bridge, but that will have to wait for another day. I know. Back to Southern Leyte again. Yes, but I promise you, the Burgos Jetty is a cracking place. Normally, you're only allowed to dive Monday, Wednesday and Friday evenings, but I got special permission to make a dive during the day, so I could get some footage of the structure itself. The limitations on the evenings you're allowed to dive are to appease the locals from fishing there without the disturbance of divers. But rather amusingly, I now have the proof that actually there are no fish. Frogfish are frequent visitors to the jetty, with giant, painted and clown species being the most commonly seen. This giant frogfish gets scared by my lights and momentarily loses control. Embarrassed, he quickly scurries off to hide his shame. For me, it's interesting to see how the 2008 extended area now is alive with life and blends into the original structure. But it's at night when this place really comes alive. I don't know how many dives I've done on the jetty, although I'm pretty sure I've spent at least a week underwater here, as many of my dives have lasted over 100 minutes. The normal routine I follow is to spend about a third of the dive underneath the jetty structure itself, and then the rest of the time in the surrounding area. It's a magnet for the weird and wonderful, full of special things, and occasionally you'll get rewarded with an extra special thing. When we were there in March, there were 2 pairs of these harlequin shrimp that had been resident for a while. Being a complete macro nut, I could have spent the whole night watching them. But even at only 4 meters of water, a 12-litre tank is going to run dry at some stage. Maybe next time I'll take a twin set. If you'd like to see more of our videos, please feel free to subscribe to us on YouTube or like us on Facebook.